I welcome you back again to this channel. Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. Thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking and sharing the videos. Before we proceed in today's class, if you are yet to subscribe, kindly do so. Tap the notification bell beside the subscribe button after pressing the subscribe button to get notified anytime a new video is posted on this channel. Thank you so much.
I welcome every one of you to today's class. Before we start today's lesson, which is titled The Transport System in Man, I want to use this medium to acknowledge and thank everyone who subscribed to this channel. Thank you very much. I can see that we are growing, we are learning, and it is getting more interesting every time. Thank you. God bless you. Yes, like I said, the topic for today's lesson is the transport system in man. I tell you that transport system is also known as circulatory system, the system that moves materials around the body of man. These materials that we're talking about, we can equally call them substances. Substances such as water, such as oxygen, carbon dioxide, talking about digested food, glucose, amino acid, talking about hormones, talking about antibodies, and so on. Why do we need this transport system in man or in every organism where it occurs, both plants and animals? We need them in order to deliver the materials that are needed for proper functioning of the body to the body cells at the time that they are needed. Let's take, for example, hormones are needed at their target organs where they effect their functions, but they are not produced where they are needed, and they must be carried to where they are needed. And the only means for them to be carried to where they will function is by this transport system. Another one is oxygen. The cells need oxygen for cellular respiration. If oxygen fails to get to the cells as at the time needed, it can result into problem. So this is a topic that needs to be understood by every living being. Under this topic, we're going to be taking a look at the type of the transport system involved in man. We're going to be taking a look at the transport medium. We're going to be talking about the blood vessels. We're going to be talking about the heart, its structure and function. And finally, we're going to be talking about the mechanism of transportation in man. Let's start with this. Types of circulatory system in man. Generally, we have two categories of circulatory system. The first one is open and closed circulatory system, while the second one is single and double circulatory system. Open circulatory system occurs in lower organisms such as arthropods, the mollusks in the phylum Mollusca, and so on. But in man, it is closed circulatory system. It is closed circulatory system. Why is this so closed circulatory system? It is circulatory system because the body organs, the internal organs, do not bathe in the transport medium. This transport medium is passed through or is delivered through vessels into individual cells or individual body organs. So that is why it is a closed circulatory system. All right, the second one is double circulatory system. We have single circulatory system as found in lower vertebrates such as the fish. And it is a type of circulatory system where the blood or the transport medium passes through the heart and it is pumped only once, and the transport medium goes round the body, then returns back to the heart. And that is a complete circulatory system. But in man, it is double circulatory system in the sense that the heart pumps the transport medium twice before the transport medium goes round the body. And as to this, we have double circulatory system divided into two. The first one is pulmonary circulation. The second one is systemic circulation. What does it mean when we say pulmonary circulation? The word pulmonary, anywhere you hear it in science, means the lungs. What did I say? Pulmonary means the lungs. Now, pulmonary circulation is the circulation between the heart and the lungs. The pumping of blood from the heart to the lungs for oxygenation and the return of oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart. That is pulmonary circulation. But there is more to it. Let me explain it this way. The heart is a pumping organ. It has left side and right side. From the right side, the lower chamber of the heart in the right side, the blood is pumped. This blood that is pumped is deoxygenated blood, the blood that does not have oxygen. This is pumped by this right ventricle and it is transported by pulmonary artery to the lungs for oxygenation. So by the time you breathe in, the oxygen that goes into your lungs mixes with this blood, while you breathe out carbon dioxide that was brought, because the blood is deoxygenated, does not have oxygen but has carbon dioxide. So by the time you breathe out, it is the carbon dioxide that was coming with the blood that you breathe out, and you have oxygen mixes with the blood, and the blood returns back to the heart. This time around, the returning blood is oxygenated blood and it is carried by pulmonary vein. And by the time it is going back to the heart, it goes to the left side of the heart. So in a nutshell, the pumping of blood from the heart through the pulmonary artery into the lungs for oxygenation, and the return of oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart is known as pulmonary circulation. Hope you understand this. Let's move on to the second phase of double circulation, and that is systemic circulation. In systemic circulation, the heart pumps the blood. The left ventricle of the heart pumps the blood, and the blood goes out of the heart through the aorta to the arteries, and this oxygenated blood is distributed to all parts of the body except the lungs. So in summary, systemic circulation is the transport or the transportation or the movement of the blood from the heart to all parts of the body except the lungs. Now we move on to the next phase. The next phase is the transport medium. The transport medium in man that we're going to be talking about is the blood. The blood is a tissue. Why is it a tissue? It is a tissue because it has cells that are working together to ensure that a specific function is carried out. This blood has two components. Component number one is called the plasma. The plasma is the liquid part of the blood, while the second component is the blood corpuscles. These blood corpuscles are also known as the blood cells. Let's first explain the plasma. The plasma is the fluid part of the blood, as I said, and it is made up of about 90% of water, and the remaining 10% is the dissolved materials in the water. These dissolved materials include digested food. Example of this digested food, we have the glucose, we have amino acid, we have the fatty acid and the glycerol, we have antibodies. These antibodies are chemicals that are produced by the lymphocytes of the white blood cell. They fight against pathogens in the body to defend and prevent the body against diseases. We have the plasmaproteins, that's the protein of the plasma. Examples of such, we have prothrombin, we have fibrinogen, we have serum albumin, and we have serum globulin. Apart from these, we have hormones. They are chemical substances that are produced in certain parts of the body but transported to target organs where they effect their functions. Examples of such, we have antidiuretic hormone, we have adrenaline, we have thyroxine, and the rest of them. They are examples of hormones. We equally have excretory materials such as carbon dioxide, we have urea, we have uric acid, and so on. All of these make up the remaining 10% that are dissolved in the 90% of water to make up the plasma of the blood. I hope you understand. Now let's move on to the blood corpuscles. These blood corpuscles are the blood cells. We have the two major, which are the red blood cells that are also known as erythrocytes, and number two, we have the white blood cells that are also known as the leukocytes. Then we have the platelets. The platelets are also called thrombocytes. They are not really cells, but they are fragments of cells. Now the erythrocytes, which is the red blood cells. The red blood cells, they are biconcave in shape. They are like disc, with the middle, the center deepened or depressed, and the edges are bulgy. It has a red pigment known as hemoglobin. This hemoglobin is very, very rich in iron. It makes the red blood cells to have high affinity for oxygen. And as a result of that, the function of red blood cells is to transport oxygen. These red blood cells lack nucleus. They do not have nucleus. And as a result of that, they have short lifespan, maximum of about 120 days, which is approximately 4 months. Another very important thing you should know about these red blood cells is that they are very numerous. They are produced in large quantity because they must transport oxygen that is needed for all our daily activities. Now we move on to white blood cells. The white blood cells are not as many as the red blood cells. Their function is to defend and prevent the body against infections and diseases. And there are two types of these white blood cells. We have the phagocytes and we have the lymphocytes. The phagocytes are amoeboid in shape. They are the ones that engulf pathogens, meaning that they take in pathogens into themselves and digest them in order to prevent and defend the body. While the lymphocytes, they are the ones that produce chemical substances to either kill, to either dissolve, to agglutinate, or to disarm microorganisms or pathogens. I'm going to talk about 4 categories of these lymphocytes. Number 1, we have the toxins. They disarm the microorganisms. We have the agglutinins. They make the pathogens to clump to them, and by that they are unable to cause damage to the body. Then we have the lysins. The lysins dissolve the coat of the pathogens, and thereby they are inactive and they are unable to perform their functions. And then we have the precipitins. The precipitins will solidify or turn the pathogens into solid, and by that it renders them inactive, and the body is so prevented against infections and diseases. White blood cells have nucleus. Unlike the red blood cells that does not possess nucleus, white blood cells possess nucleus. Thereby, they live longer than the red blood cells. And finally, we move on to the platelets. The platelets are known as thrombocytes. They are not really cells, but they are fragments of cells. And their function is blood clotting. The function in blood clotting. What is blood clotting? Blood clotting is putting stoppage to bleeding. When there is damage of the blood vessel, blood comes out of the body, or there is bleeding. So the ability of that blood to stop gushing out is known as blood clotting, and this is facilitated by platelets. How does this happen? Mechanism of blood clotting. When there is damage to the blood vessels, from that blood vessels, there is an enzyme that is produced. The enzyme is known as thrombokinase. In the presence of this thrombokinase, there is activation and conversion of plasma protein known as prothrombin into thrombin in the presence of calcium ion. In the presence of calcium ion, This thrombin, when it is produced, it is an enzyme that made the conversion of fibrinogen from fibrinogen into fibrin. This fibrin is a thread, or you call it fibrin thread. This fibrin thread is produced in large quantity to the extent that it forms a mesh and has the ability to start binding the platelets. When they are entangled in the thread, they form a mesh that covers the surface of the damaged blood vessels and the blood stops. And that's the mechanism of blood clotting as facilitated by platelets. To this end, I want to believe you are still following and you are learning. Thank you very much. We move on to the next, and these are the blood vessels. The blood vessels. These are the vessels. They are pipe-like tissues that carry blood from the heart to the body and from the body back to the heart. Number one, we have the arteries, we have the veins, and we have the capillaries. The vein and the arteries, they are the main blood vessels. And as they protrude, they start to get smaller. And as they are getting smaller, they form a kind of network that is known as capillaries. It is these capillaries that deliver blood, water, and everything that is carried by blood into individual cells for metabolism. Let's take a look at this. This is artery and this is vein. This artery is big, is very large, and as it is branching, it branches into arteriole. The arteriole further divided into tinier vessels that are known as capillaries. From this side of the vein, we also have the vein, a very large blood vessel. It branches into venule. This venule further branches into tinier blood vessels known as capillaries. These capillaries enters into the muscles or enters into the cells. As artery brings materials to the cells utilizes whatever material that is brought into it and releases its metabolic waste into that blood. The blood flows from that cell or from that organ or muscle into the capillaries on the side of the vein. It passes through the venule and goes to the vein, and from the vein the blood is returned back to the heart. The blood is returned to the heart. The blood is taken back to the heart. Those are the blood vessels. Now let's quickly take a look at the characteristics or the functions of each of these. Number one, the arteries. The arteries, all arteries in the body carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery is the one that takes blood to the lungs for oxygenation. It's the only one that carries deoxygenated blood. Every other artery in the body carries oxygenated blood. The lumen, that is the tunnel, the channel within arteries, that's lumen, is narrow. There are no valves in the lumen. These arteries are very, very thick. They are thick walled, about 3 cells thickened. They are very, very thick and they are elastic. Another thing about them is that arteries carry blood away from the heart. Another characteristic is that the blood that flows in the artery is bright red. Let's stop at that. As we have said about arteries, the opposites are the characteristics of the vein. The veins carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein. That's the blood vessel that returns blood from the lungs to the heart. So by the time the blood is coming from the lungs, it is oxygenated already. So it is the only vein that carries oxygenated blood. Every other vein in the body carries deoxygenated blood. All veins return blood to the heart. The lumen is wider. It has inelastic wall and it is thin-walled. Remember that arteries are thick-walled, but veins are thin-walled. The blood that flows in veins is dull red. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any comments or confusion, please let it be known in the comment section. And if this lesson has really done you good, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, tell others to subscribe, and please keep sharing. This is where we're going to stop for today. Until the next time we are meeting, keep studying, keep loving biology.